welcome to Consciously Healthy.
This is Laura.
Yeah.
I'm Claire. I didn't know what we were doing then because we're trying a new start, but clearly it's just too stuck in a rut. Okay. Anyway,
What are we talking about?
Well, I've just seen on your list we're talking about crying all the time, and then just before we started recording, we went, "Oh, that's good. I had a client with this week."
And also we had we've got a podcast that we're promoting at the moment, which is about holding your own emotions. And we had a comment from a Facebooker saying, "Really resonate with this. I cry all the time. I feel sad all the time." And so we had a quick chat and thought, right, that looks like a good topic.
So if you do make contact with us, we will do podcasts on what you ask about.
Yes, we do. Oh, yes, we do.
The DJ takes requests.
Oh, doesn't it just?
As long as those requests are wham.
Or Lenny Kravitz.
Try. Anyway, we sidetracked. So crying all the time.
Yes, it's...
We were talking about it earlier. And I went, oh yeah, that's thyroid imbalances.
Yeah, that was so we're going to look at this from an emotional perspective as well as a physical perspective. And if we do have someone coming into the clinic and saying that they cannot stop crying, the first thing I scribble on my notes is have a look at thyroid.
And yes. And the reason for that is when the thyroid gets a bit stressed, so anyone who takes thyroxine will tell you that if they miss a few days, mood will plummet, like mood swings all over the place, and literally there is literally no joy in the world whatsoever. And that's very, very common. And in women, what tends to happen more is the outward expression of that is tears. Very, very much. So
it can, the thyroid is part of our endocrine system, which is our hormone responses. So particularly if it feels like a hormonal, then I'd be thinking thyroid.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that your thyroid is damaged or has a major problem. It just means that in that moment or for that period of time, it's just a little bit stressed.
Maybe it needs some support or whatever. We always talk about an imbalance.
Yes.
So there's maybe an imbalance in the body. So
the thyroid can be imbalanced for lots of reasons. It could be because it's cold. It doesn't like the cold.
I do cry in the cold.
Me too.
Yeah, because the thyroid works with our metabolism, so energy conversion. So you might be feeling a little bit sort of sluggish, and it's also to do with regulating our temperature. So yeah, if it is particularly cold and you really want to cry a lot.
In Chinese 5-element theory, the thyroid is on a meridian called the triple warmer or the triple heater. So it is literally our thermostat. So if you think about a proper thermostat, it would be regulating the temperature of the air. And if it goes too cold, the thermostat clicks in so that the central heating goes on. And if it's too hot, the thermostat goes off. So if you think about the thyroid, that's part of its job. And you think about particularly in winter, going from a warm house, so thyroid is switched off, go outside, really cold, thermostat clicks on, it's on off all the time, and it kind of just doesn't know where it's at, and so it can just get a little bit, I just don't know what I'm doing.
So if you are feeling like particularly things like cold hands and feet, and your energy's a bit sluggish and you're crying all the time, then there's a few little things that you can do. Kelp is a lovely supplement. Everybody can digest it, but it's and kelp is sea based, so things like seaweed. You can eat some more seaweed. You can get seaweed from health food shops.
Yes.
So sort of the sushi, nori. You can get rid of your bread and use nori sheets as to make sandwiches out of.
Yeah,
so that's a good way of doing it.
If you are crying all the time, a supplement that I would recommend would be manganese. And you can't actually get manganese as a supplement, but you can get red raspberry, which has got a lot of manganese in it. So even things like red raspberry leaf tea, not just for women who are expecting, but it's got a lot of manganese in it. So you can actually get supplements of red raspberry.
And that is because our tears are largely made up of water and manganese.
Yeah, so you lose a lot of manganese, which means you then haven't got it, which then can actually contribute to the problem, and you end up in a bit of a vicious cycle.
So yeah, that's what we'd be looking at chemically.
Yes.
What about
something else you can do is, if this is a really big problem for you, and if you've sort of Googled, and I would definitely recommend you see a practitioner always, but you can, and provided you're not on any medication that would counter-indicate this, so always check with your GP, legal disclaimer. I.e. use your common sense. You can actually get iodine solution that you do not drink, but you actually put on your skin, and it's called Lugol's iodine, Lugols, and you can get it freely on the internet very easily, and you can get all sorts of different percentage solutions, and so start with like a really low percentage, something like a 3 or a 5%, and if you put that on your skin anywhere, it's really dark brown. And what happens is if you need iodine, it will absorb very quickly. That will go from dark brown to very, very pale very, very quickly. And that's what says, yes, I need some iodine, please. So you can then do that for a few days until it stops. When your body doesn't want it anymore, the dark brown won't go.
And I definitely recommend working with a practitioner with that, because to be able to absorb iodine, we tend to need things like zinc and iron. So if you're particularly low in those, and that is why things like seaweed and kelp is really great, because it's got all of that stuff. It's got the iodine, it's got the zinc, it's got the iron in it. So if either work with a practitioner,
but you can do it. But a lot of people sort of used to drink iodine, like get the one that you can drink. Not that one, but the ones you can actually drink. Ooh. And actually, I don't like doing that, because this way, the body, one with the skin, the body is telling you, yes, I need it, no, I don't. Whereas you're kind of bypassing your body's own innate sort of intuition doing it that way. So definitely, if you wanted to look at iodine, go the skin route and work with a practitioner. Yeah,
absolutely. And so crying all the time emotionally. Do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay. One of the first things that I think of is that the tears are a way of the body expressing an emotion that the individual doesn't want to feel. So it's very common that, say, a woman doesn't feel comfortable, she may be incredibly angry about something, doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't know how to express anger in a healthy way, and so it will come through as tears. And because the body hasn't had the opportunity to release the emotion that's actually going on, the tears never stop, because it hasn't got to the root of the issue. So one of the questions I do ask if someone's crying all the time is, how are you with grief? How are you with anger? How are you with fear? It can be a fear response, and to see if there's one that no, I don't do anger, I don't do fear, I just, that's not for me. And that's usually where I go start exploring.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you think if someone was emotionally?
Literally, the first thing I'd be saying is, what's happening in your life you don't like? Oh, I'd probably go a bit, you're like, so let's just have a look at these sides, go, there's something you don't like, what is it?
Yeah, we sometimes have different approaches in our clinic. But I think it's a fair point. I think it's a really fair question.
Yeah.
What don't you like?
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, crying all the time.
What else would you be thinking?
And often, not always, but often, people who cry all the time often have a neck issue as well, don't they? There's quite a lot of... it could also be hormone imbalance. So hormone imbalances can be because of the thyroid, and the way that the thyroid interplays with estrogen often has a neck imbalance.
Huh. I'm just trying to put that together in my head.
I'll explain it to you kinesiologically later.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. But actually, there's a hormone imbalance. So often there can be quite common people go, I'm crying all the time and I've got really bad neck ache. It can be.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, every day's a school day.
Yeah, we'll have a little discussion about that afterwards. We'll geek out kinesiology.
So, crying all the time, feeling sad all the time. I would also be, if you look at Chinese element theory, if it's a real sadness, they could be stuck in a certain element, and the sadness element is fire, and the meridian organs that are linked to the fire element is small intestine, heart, the endocrine triple warmer system, and circulation, sex. So I, as a practitioner, would be looking at digestion, what's going on digestively. I'd be looking at their stress levels, and I'd be looking at their sex life.
Mm-hmm. And their hormones.
Yeah, so there's lots of different routes that I'd be going down. And I'm a big believer in, women, we do this, we go up and down with our cycles, and human beings, we're emotional beings. So, if we want to cry, then letting it come. But as soon as there is
we're in it all the time.
Yeah, there's an imbalance. So they should, we should be crying some of the time, but if we're crying all the time, then it is something to look at.
And hopefully there's lots of top tips
Yeah.
here and opportunities to work with practitioners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So we will see you next time.
Oh, yes, subscribe here.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
For more ramblings.